Well, hello, everybody. I am excited to be here. For those of you who have not met me yet, my name is Kathy Nelson. I'm the CEO and founder of the Photo Managers. And this entire month of January, we've been bringing different topics to our B&H Live event. Great friends of ours in the Photo Managers. And today, I'm really excited to introduce professional photographer Jennifer Loomis to the conversation. We met each other not quite a year ago and became immediate friends. She came to our conference, didn't know much about the Photo Managers, that there was this whole organization that supports photo organizing businesses, of which she had started on her own as part of her portrait photography business, which she's going to tell you all about. And we immediately connected because we both realized we had a similar passion in helping people not only get their photos managed and organized so they're back in their life in a meaningful way, but also encouraging and helping small business owners looking for ways to make additional money. And we just decided that we'd become fast friends, and we have. So Jennifer, welcome to B&H Live event. And my first question is to tell us about yourself and how you got interested in photography and your success, which you've had quite a bit of success as a professional.
Okay, so it's a longer story, but I'll give you the short version. I was a poor artist in San Francisco and found myself photographing women. I took a class titled Photographing Nudes of Women. I don't even know if you know this, Kath.
No, I don't know this
And I
part of the
went to the
story.
class, and I was the only female in the class. And I walked out of that class, and there was a beautiful model who came on with a background. And I was like, oh my God, look at the shape, the form, everything is so beautiful. And then nobody was really taking pictures. Mind you, I was the only woman. And then there was a break for lunch, and she came back out, and it was much more boudoir, kind of sexier stuff. And of course, everybody started photographing. And this was 91, I think. And I walked out of that class going, oh my gosh, there needs to be more women photographing women. So I started photographing women, and then I started photographing pregnant women. And then I got my very first referral for professional photographing of a pregnant woman from Annie Leibovitz's studio right after she'd done Demi Moore. And then I realized once I photographed a pregnant woman, I was like, whoa, nobody's seen this before. Where is this shape in our society? Society doesn't even look at this. So I knew I wanted to challenge society's definition of beauty. And that launched my career as a maternity photographer, which grew rapidly. It was a sexy story for the media. I also had been a journalist, but prior to that, so I left my career with MSNBC.com, where I was a multimedia producer. And I opened 2 studios, 3 studios, 4 studios, and 5 studios. I was making $500,000 a year and came out with a book, and just rocked and rolled. I had a child in 2014, which slowed me down a little bit. And so I pulled back from all the travel, closed a few studios. You know, as we do when we have a family, we kind of tighten our priorities, refocus our priorities. And but still was doing a really 6-figure business in photography. I mean, it was really still great. And so fast forward to, now, I had one of my great clients. I swear to God, I'm a line item on her annual budget. She said to me, Jen, I have all these photos. What do I do with them? This is 5 years ago. And I was like, you want me to help you? She's this great client. And I said, yeah, I can help you. No problem. I can do that. She goes, I just have all these digitals. Can you dedupe them and, just organize them by year? And I said, yeah, I mean, that turned into a $150,000 project alone. And
wow. So,
yeah,
that's a big, yes, we want to talk about that today. I mean, the title of today's talk a little bit is like how to elevate your income, right, as professional photographers. So if you're joining and you have questions, go ahead and put it, we're going to have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. And we'll do some screen sharing in a minute here. So the next question I have, because it's a fascinating story, Jen, and I think especially if you're speaking to those in this audience who know the pain that maybe points that you're addressing, when did you start experiencing, when did you start seeing a change as a professional photographer in the overall marketplace, and what other challenges have you seen? I know you even were mentioning yesterday you were on a call with photographers noticing portrait photographers, right?
So the first big shock I would say that hit the photo industry was 2008, right after the fall of the market and the Great Recession, as they're calling it. I mean, I have to be honest that was kind of some roaring years for me. My book came out, and a lot of my clients are higher net worth people, so we're not as impacted by that. I think it's been a slow boil to the fact that so many people have photographs, and the barrier to entry for photography has lowered. So in other words, you can buy a really great camera. You don't have to go to school. You can set it on auto, photograph your subject, and then you've got Lightroom presets or things like that to maybe develop a look that you're looking for. Maybe that covers up some overexposure, underexposure, things like that. So there's lots of tools to help you. And I think what that's done for the photo industry is, like I said, lowers the barrier to entry. And as somebody said last night, there's a race to the bottom in pricing. Also, clients are expecting all of their digital images. Those of us who are old school photographers, like we would never give away our negatives. So to me, negatives are like digital files. So I don't give those away either. We sell them, right? So it's just been a transformation. And I think we came last night, this big discussion that we were all having was like, there's something afoot right now with, it used to be that people wanted photographs for their Instagram. Somebody was saying, I'm too high priced to really be that person for people, but there were a lot of photographers who were able to give family photos. I'm talking specifically family photography and portrait photography right now. Give them these images for their Instagram. That's changing now. Your camera phones are getting better and better, right? So I would say, you know, my argument last night was, look, camera phones are great. You can hand it to a friend. You can run a filter on it. Anyone can do that. And then you've got your pictures. So what's starting to happen is more and more pictures are building up. And I would argue that more and more people are like, no more, right? We have too much stuff already.
Right. Yeah. People are, yeah, well, they're drowning, right? They're drowning in images. And,
Yeah.
you know, the photo managers, I mean, I saw that in 2009 when I started this, that I could never dreaming that it would be to the place it is today. There were some great statistics that just came out. I don't have them at my fingertip, but that was just published about the number of photos being uploaded per day or taken. And it's just, you know, we're in the trillions and trillions, right? And so what's the value of, but we know that people care deeply about their photos, right? I mean, the value of a photo hasn't changed. It's just the sheer volume of them has. And that's where there's this kind of there's this intersect, right? For people like yourself who have experience and things. So tell me about, I mean, you know, so you talked about that a little bit about that client who asked you to help. Are you surprised from that minute that you said yes 5 years ago to where you are today? I mean, could you have ever envisioned this kind of place that you are? And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, I'm talking to you, right? I'm on B&H, right? As a longtime photographer, B&H is like, I don't know, the mecca for those of us in photography, right? I had the catalog, but so I'm super grateful to be here. And it's funny because 5 years ago when I started this, I was helping out one of my favorite clients. And then I started to talk about it. And then I started to talk to others and I realized, oh, wow, this is an opportunity, but it's really important for me in my work to feel like I'm helping people. Does that make sense? So it's like, if I can help people, then I feel good, right? We price appropriately and all that kind of stuff. But I realized, oh, a lot of people have this problem. It's a source of aggravation. It's a source of fear. And we talk about that in the course that's coming up that you and I are going to talk about in a second. But yeah, I'm shocked that I'm here today. In fact, that one client, I love her so much. Every time I'm doing a talk or something like this, I take a photo and I say, this is all because of you. And she gets a good kick out of that.
We just popped up your signature photo organizing website.
Great.
When did you make that shift? Well, when did you actually create your brand from, you have your Jennifer Loomis still, you know, your pro, and then I don't even know the answer to this story either. Like, when did you brand yourself also as signature photo organizing?
So I would say we started out with a landing page on our website, just so we had, you know, we had a place to send people as we got inquiries. And then gradually we realized this needed its own identity, because my photography work is like nude women and stuff and nude pregnant women, and like, just, it's a different feel. And I felt like we have a lot of older clients and stuff, you know, and it's a little bit shocking. Maybe they go to my website and they see this like semi-clad pregnant woman on the cover. So we decided, we as me and all my multiple personalities, but my assistant was in on the conversation. And so we decided to shift to having our own identity. I would say we built the website 2 or 3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. So I think it's important. I mean, just that's interesting that the idea that, yeah, to identify yourself as having a different, and you talk about that one first client, but obviously you've had lots of clients since then who wouldn't know that you photographed nude women either, right? If you're saying, how have you, so how have you built your business? And a little bit, we'll talk about the course that you've created and the ways that you want to help professional photographers, but just for the sake of this conversation, what has that process been like from that one first big client who obviously was somebody that knew and trusted you to the process where you're getting clients maybe that you don't know you as Jennifer Loomis,
Yeah.
the photographer.
So we have a lot of the clients, and for photographers, I like to talk about this. A lot of our first clients, and actually we just signed another client, are my long-term photo clients. It's a no-brainer. They trust you to photograph them at all these different walks, periods of their lives. They value photography, right? Because they hire photographers. So of course they value all their other photos. And so there's such a great intersection there for the two. As far as other clients, I teamed up with, accidentally, a lot of this is really organic. A home organizer who approached me, and I said, she does high-end home organizing, and somehow she got my name, and we met and had coffee, and she's like, I don't touch photographs. I put them all in a room. It is its own beast. I don't want to deal with it. So she sends us a lot of great clients. And then I'm an old journalist, and I believe in community and local newspapers. And so as a way that I feel like I can give back is I actually just bought a couple of ads in some small papers near where I live and just in surrounding communities, because I feel strongly about community journalism and these papers really need the ad dollars. And I never intended on that, but that has been also a windfall for us, because the people who actually read the newspaper are older people, and they typically have a lot of photos hanging around that they need to get organized to give to their
Yeah, that's I like that question about who is a typical client? What's the age range, and what is it that they kind of come to you with?
So our typical client is older, their kids are older. They bring everything to us. I mean, the one thing that those little newspaper ads in is it's sort of like, a big net drags in everything. So we've had to kind of say, this is what we don't do, and this is what we do. But they're typically in their maybe 40s or 50s, older kids. We do get some retirees. It's everything from digital to analog. We've decided we're going to do them both, a hybrid shop. So we do have certain things that we outsource to providers, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
they have to have a disposable income, honestly, because photo organizing is not cheap.
Yeah.
It's so much time. So much time.
It is. And that's where I agree. And we've learned that. And, the target market that, there's over 700 professional photo managers that are members of the photo managers. And we just had I think our third or fourth newest member from Germany. I mean, it's a worldwide phenomenon. People all over the world need this help. But I agree that that demographic that has both, they straddle the analog world a little bit and the digital world as well, are the ones that really have this massive mess. And then how great it is to eventually merge their analog printed collection into a digital collection where they can actually see everything together in one place. And so what's the emotional, I always say, because it's priceless, right? If people know if they lose all their photos, they're devastated, right? And they don't want to lose all those photos. So, but when they're looking at paying for it right up front, they're not thinking about that. But what's the emotional outcome that you've seen? And how is that similar to what happened when, as a professional photographer, and different when you return somebody's photo collection to them, or in the process of discovering maybe slides they have never seen, pictures of their parents they didn't know they had?
Yeah. So it's different, right, for each client. So we have several clients who've come to us who have lost a loved one, right? And they can't look at the pictures, and they've saved everything from that person's life, including the glasses. So what we like to do for that client, it's a big account. And so mid project, we do those photo frames So, and we often do these for these big clients. We put a photo frame together just so they can see what we're doing, right, with their money. But it's something that's, unimaginable to see him watch that photo frame as it flips through pictures of his wife. Other clients we see, we've divided our clients into 4 types. So there's a group of them that the photos are a source of aggravation for them, like super aggravating. It makes them crazy. They just want somebody to deal with it. So those people are interesting because once they get it out to somebody else, it's almost like that relief has come and taken the place of all the photos that now sit in our office in a dark room, temperature protected, blah, blah, blah. But, and so those are the projects that tend to be annual. They go on years because they constantly keep finding more stuff. But it's just the sense of relief, right? So that's an emotion for a lot of them, or the mom who's completely terrified that she's going to lose all these pictures of her children.
Right. Yeah, because the emotional, what is it? People buy on, they buy on emotion. They don't buy on logic. It's not, sales is an emotional experience, right? And this is so emotional. Photos, of anything, it's going to create photos, videos. I always say photos, videos, and keepsake items. Like you mentioned, the person, his wife's glasses, right? When you go into a client's home and you're taking out the things they care about, they're in the box of photos are usually, right, the kids' artwork, or the baby's first shoes, I always say, or the outfit they wore home, the baby wore home from the hospital, or I don't know, mom's tea set, right? They're usually all kind of mixed up in that box of things that people care about.
Boxes, really.
Yeah, bins, like lots of boxes.
Closets.
Yeah, so that's another question before we jump into a little bit about the course you've created in helping people is, tell me about your goal as a woman, mom, and photographer to help other pro photographers. Because I feel like, we really connected on that bond about helping people, a lot of times women, most of our members are women. We have lots of men, but where does that come from? What's that?
So my mom was an immigrant and my dad left her with 2 kids and she had no education. She came from a war-torn country in Europe. And I saw her struggle really hard. And I've worked really hard so that I don't have to struggle like her. But I remember the fear of hers. And so for me, when I do anything, it's really important that I feel like I'm giving back. And it upsets me what photographers are experiencing. I read somebody say, photography broke her heart. And I feel like this is such an amazing opportunity for photographers who are just trained in this already, have most of the gear, right? Camera stand included, and have the clients, right? Like, and so all of a sudden, when you and I were talking and I started to think about this, I started to be like, wait a minute, look at this. We can do this. We can make a difference in these people's lives. They don't have to give up photography. They don't have to close their studio, but in January or February or March, when things are a little, still, this is when they can take on clients. And I always tell my photo mentees, I'm like, your very first photo organizing clients are your current photo clients, right? Like that's your email list. Start seeding it now,
That's great advice. So let's jump in a little bit because we just, so Jennifer just created a course that, for photographers on how to, she pretty much takes, and I'm going to share my screen and show you the landing page. This is the landing page where we'll drop it in the chat or so that people can find this, but it's called Photo Organizing for Photographers, How to Transform Your Business by Solving Your Clients. So it's $50 off until February 1st. It's only $149. So Jennifer, tell us what it is that you walk people through here in this course.
Right. So it's a 3-part course. And I just spent a lot of time thinking about how did I do this? How did I, and as I told you, this has been kind of an organic process. The first part is signature photo organizing's top 10 tips, right, to getting started. Now, this is a business course. I want to tell people that it's not teaching you how to organize. The photo managers, if you've got questions about that, they can do that. We may in the future do something like that. But I wanted you guys to understand the business side of this, okay? So it's the top 10 tips to getting started. What are some of those? Like, you should have a separate workstation for your photo organizing. Some scanner ideas if you want to do scanning. The first question is really the key question, which is what do you want to offer? Do you want to do digital photos, organizing those? I think the long-term success of that is present because we're going to be moving away from analog, not for a long time, but once all those analogs get digitized, then you're really just going to have digital. Do you want to do analog? That's prints, videos, all those things that Kathy talked about, mementos, albums. Do you want to do a hybrid? We are a hybrid shop, and we do both, but we do outsource certain things. So the next thing is marketing tips. Where can you find clients? The first one, which I keep talking about, is your very own photography email list, right? Your Facebook followers, your Instagram followers, all the people who love you, they love and trust you to capture their family, their weddings, all that kind of thing. They're going to trust you to take care of these photos. They know you. It's a relationship that you already have built. You can capitalize on that. And also, more importantly, you're helping solve a dilemma for them. And then the last part is a little bit longer, not as colorful, but it is something that I believe is very important and very different from what we as portrait photographers and other photographers we think about. And it's pricing made easy for profitability and success. So it's a deeper dive into your cost of doing business. What does it cost you a month to run your business? I mean, you should be doing this for your photo business, but what we need to get out of this number is your hourly rate, because as we talked about, photo organizing is a long process. It takes hours, right? I like to tell my assistants, look, people are buying their life back from us because this takes 40, 200 hours, 400 hours. I mean, it's nuts, right? So how do you figure out your cost of doing business? How do you calculate your profit that you want to make? What are the factors that go into that? Where you live, what you want to include, things like that. Then something completely new for me was time tracking. So I really do believe we as photo organizers need to track our time. That's hard. It's a habit that you've got to learn, a muscle that you have to build. So I kind of go into that. And then I also, in that pricing, I talk about some other things where you can potentially have a different revenue stream, right? Like what you can offer in addition to photo organizing that's going to not only be helpful and useful, but also potentially add some passive income for you.
And also, you include a lot of handouts, and then Jennifer's going to do a live quarterly Q&A session where you can, ask Jennifer questions and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is priced so inexpensively. I mean, it's amazing. And then I know that we had, Laura. So this is so new that we're building our testimonials, but Laura just wrote this. Laura's been a longtime member of the Photo Manager. She was a pro photographer, also made the switch, and she just went through the course saying she wished she had that when she first got started. But she does, a big part of her business is making photo books. That's her kind of sweet spot. She loves designing and creating really, a lot of people go on these major, safaris or take, they're kind of they love taking photos, and then they come back with all these amazing photos, and then they need somebody to turn them into amazing photo books. So she's been a longtime member of the Photo Manager. So again, just a little bit, those are kind of the details. And then, people have met me here on this, through B&H, but we're the Photo Managers, and there's an opportunity then to get involved in our organization as well, where we do lots of training, and we have a certification, and we teach people how to do this. And we have a lot of professional photographers who are members also. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. So hopefully those are all being dropped into the chat there, who do this as either their main business now or just a side piece of their business. And most people report waiting lists. I mean, it's a fast growing. When I started it many years ago, people would say, what, people are going to pay you for that. Now everybody's like, oh my God, of course there's a need for this. How come right? What do you hear from people when we tell them that you offer this service now?
That's a really good question, because these ads that I ran really act as an educational piece to this, where people call us and are like, I didn't even think that was a thing. Like, I don't
Right.
even
That's
and
not a thing.
think that that was a thing. I'm so glad to find this. So there's a component of the people who schedule a call with us that say, hey, I just glad to know you're here. Tell me more about it, right? So it's an educational component for them. And so I'm out in the community all the time, and people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was a thing. I need this, right? And so um
Yeah, and
that's
and a big part of it too is, and we'll answer these questions that are coming in a minute more specifically, but a lot of times people that, not everybody has had all their photos scanned or their home movies converted. And a lot of times they don't want to send that off to a big box
yeah,
store, right? So they're really excited that somebody actually will come to right? You go to some of your clients' homes, pick up
yeah,
their
we pick it up.
collections, bring
Yeah.
it back to your studio. And so there's such a sense of relief that somebody who cares about their photos aren't going to be just shipped off in the mail somewhere and things like that, right? So
Yeah, I mean, we had some experiences when I was a photographer with that, well, which I would never again, like shipping film and got lost. Film is irreplaceable, these types of things.
yeah,
These photos are irreplaceable. So yeah, in our region, we pick up. Digital is a little bit different. We can get that over the internet or
yeah,
other
logging
places.
in using. Um, two more questions, and then we'll go to questions for people. What is the area that you find most difficult? Because I always feel like it's good to be realistic about a
Yeah.
business and starting a new business. So, and then what brings you the most joy? But what is something that is, kind of hard about this?
Yeah, what's really hard is when someone hands me or we go pick up all this stuff, like boxes and boxes of albums and prints. It's really hard for me to guesstimate, right? I talk
Yeah.
about that in the class. We don't do an estimate, we do what we call a guesstimate, because real life example is somebody handed us an album and I was like, oh yeah, this will take X, hours. I open up the album and there's like 100 sheets of like really thin paper from the turn of the century, like kind of typing paper. Do you remember that stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that was like a 40-hour job because they were fragile and we had to put them on the scanner and use the gloves and then insert them in glassines, and it was a mess. So I would say that's really challenging for us, is like, people hand you all their stuff and they think it's only going to take like a week, and realizing that no, this is like a 300-hour job really, and then
And a lot
people,
of times they underestimate what they have. People
yeah.
grossly underestimate, the number of photos,
And
or they
we see
also,
that on the digital side all the time. Oh, I have 10 or 20,000 pictures. And I'm like, yeah, I bet you have about 60,000, probably.
yeah,
They just have no idea. And so that's
right.
hard.
Yeah.
What was the
Uh,
second part to that question?
oh, and what brings you the most joy though? What do you love most about it?
Oh, um, I love just working with the people. I like talking to them and finding out about what they're doing. And I love showing them the finished product, like all the photos neatly in the archival envelopes and the bins labeled. I like that a lot. And I really love making photo books too. I don't do a lot of them, but we do have periodically with clients. I'm a photojournalist. I love telling stories with pictures. There's nothing like a photo book to really, and I'm
Yeah.
really good at, lining up the pictures, making sure, because I used to do graphic design for newspapers with my own picture stories and stuff. So I like that a lot too.
And that's an important, I always joke, especially, I think most photographers are probably creatives, right? And the idea of organizing, I always joke the fact that organizing is attached to my name of anything I created is humorous in a way, but it's really about the storytelling, right? Our
Yeah.
photos tell the stories of our lives. This
Mhm.
is about, organization is really a means to an end. It's not like the highlight of this experience. It's the curation of your family photos need to be curated just as much as, you're as a professional photographer has to curate all the photos you shoot in a photo shoot, right? They need to be turned into the story that they're meant to be told. And
Well,
that's the heart of it, right?
and there's data out there that having photos taken of your children, right,
Mm.
actually increases their self-esteem. I mean, there's a lot of data around family photography hanging in your house and your
Yep.
kids' self-esteem.
Yeah, there's some great, I have
Making
some
an
good articles on
album
that.
for
Yep.
them, telling them the story of theirs when they were a child, and, funny little anecdotes. It's important for making them feel connected.
Yeah, I know that it's called the Did You Know survey. And people can search that through New York Times. There's been a number of articles written out that people that kid's self-esteem. How has been meeting us, the photo managers, been a surprise for you and helpful for your business at this point? I know you're coming to, we do an annual conference. We'll be in Columbus. Jennifer will be at our conference. We introduce a lot of partners to our members and things like that. So has
I
this
mean,
new
I
kind of
wish I'd
association?
found you guys 5 years ago. You know what I mean? I mean, I was sort of like feeling my
Yeah,
way in
yeah,
the
you
dark
built quite a
room.
business not knowing that we existed. Yeah.
But I mean, that's why I feel like photographers, you've got this, you know, I mean, I think finding a community of people is good. I think having the resources so that when I do hit up against a question or like, how can I do this? I don't have to just sit and think about it. I can actually reach out and ask somebody who's done it before me, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of valuable. That's incredibly valuable because you don't have, I didn't realize you guys were there and I just built all these processes on my own. And they're solid, but maybe had I had a little bit of an inkling and done a little bit of training up ahead of time, you know, I would have avoided some mistakes.
Yeah, that learning curve can be steep, and it's nice to do it in a community of other people that are learning alongside, you know, so you're not doing it by yourself. Well, this has been fun. I definitely want to go to you know, the Q&A, but again, remember that, so Jennifer, the course is available. I'll kind of pop that up again for a minute here. I know they're popping it into the chat, but it's at the Photo Managers Academy. We're launching it. You're the first to hear about it. It just went live this morning. It's only $199 with $50 off. It's like a no-brainer in a way. If you're interested in even dipping your toe in the water, Jennifer will be there guiding you through all what she's learned. Like we mentioned, there's a lot of great downloads, a lot of great support in addition to the quarterly live Q&A. And again, in the Photo Managers, we'd love to welcome you to membership as well. That's something you can take a look at who we are. And so I'll stop sharing my screen and go to our questions. So, and Derek is going to come back on from B&H and join us. He's always fun. He'll have some maybe questions of his own. Hello, Derek.
Surprise. Wonderful information there. But Kathy, did you want to kick off the Q&A? I know we already got some questions in the box.
You're probably doing a better job keeping an eye on what's come in than I have. I've been kind of thinking about interviewing Jennifer, so you see.
Yes, well, let's start with a question from Jackie joining us on Vimeo, asking Jennifer, what is your breakdown of how much organizing you do versus the other services that you offer?
That's a good question, actually. I was just talking about that. It's 50-50, and both of them are six figures. And I just pulled my P&L last week because obviously tax time is coming, just to kind of see where I was, and I couldn't believe it. 50-50.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and answer Martha's question about if there is passive income potential in doing photo managing.
Yeah.
If that doesn't speak to it right there.
Are you asking me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the passive income is image storage.
Okay.
Right. And I use a bunch of NAS drives and blah, 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 super expensive tech. But yeah.
That's interesting. You know, my son, so my son does this full time now and where I live in West Hartford, Connecticut, where I started the Photo Managers, but he's watched me, you know, since growing up, but he's now married and he just quit he's been doing it for about 18 months now, but he's looking at more of the passive income and adding the storage of people's photos. But he's working on a project right now. This is where it's so interesting. It's not always just photos. He just got a woman, a whole collection of World War II letters where they were of, I think, her grandfather to her grandmother, maybe. And then you can see where they cut it out with an X-Acto knife, where they were cutting out the names of the ships and things where they were. And so he's wearing white gloves and he's scanning all that. It's amazing how this develops bigger than always just like photos, right?
Oh, yeah.
And but he's
genealogy, big deal.
There's many different components to it.
How much do you guys deal with stuff? I never even thought about that, to be honest, but how much do you guys deal with documents other than photos?
30% maybe.
Wow.
I mean,
it's a
most of this, I mean, because people think about it, right? You got an album and they get some documents and they stick it in the album. Right?
Newspaper articles,
kids'
letters,
art,
kids' artwork.
The man who lost his wife, like all her videos. She was a really highly respected professor, and so she has all these videos of her talking on whatever her specialty was, programs, things like that.
I had a question. There's always been the megapixel race with images. And as we've seen the technology in cell phones increase, and now you have a lot more people who are using cell phones for taking images, especially when it comes to documenting family and stuff like that. Is that ever addressed when you guys speak to clients about? So I have a medium format camera. It's overkill. When I'm archiving stuff, it's like, do I really need 100 megapixel images that I'm going to save? How do you handle that as far as, recommending people downsize, or do you go into the size of the files or the resolution of the files that we're saving, or is it just about one file's treated as the next?
I can start with that if you want, Kathy.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
We look at output, right? So for instance, if a client gives us an album, we're gonna scan it at a resolution that's gonna be larger than if they were to replicate that album. But I think with storage, I don't anticipate people want to print these on a billboard, right? And I think, storage is cheap for sure. I mean, that's the better way to do it. But I think you have to be reasonable because a lot of people don't understand the megapixel thing. And it's our job as the professional to make those calls. I mean, sure, we'll get a couple people in who are pros and they'll look at our video compression and blah, blah, blah. But, we'll talk them through that. But it's like, they're just like, I don't know. So we will think the largest possible output for them, if that makes sense.
Okay. Anything to add on that, Kathy?
Nope.
All right. Move on to the next question here from Carla on Vimeo asking, will the course cover how to keep the images safe while in your care?
So the course is a business course, right? There are lots of courses out there on how to back up your images. I can briefly talk about how we do it. We have a NAS drive system. We do the 3-2-1 backup system where we have 3 copies, 2 locations, and 1 cloud location. So, and we keep those images on their own server system. So we have, I don't know, a bank of 8 terabyte drives with a hot spare, which I really don't want to know all this, but I do. But and so yes, that's how we keep our clients' images safe. But it doesn't cover it on in the course, sorry.
Yeah, and so that's where in the course was really created. We realized there was so the photo managers, we cover A to Z, from never had your own photos unorganized all the way to you're becoming a pro and becoming certified. If you go to our website, you can search by geographic location for certified members that have been in business many years. We have many members who are solo entrepreneurs, part-time gig, all the way to having, outside studios with multiple employees and, all the way in between. But 15 years ago, nobody was doing any of this. So, but some of these questions I see here about how do you keep the images safe in your care? One of the things, I'm going to say, Jennifer, I'm sure you do too, is we really recommend from a best practice that you document. First of all, you have a contract where there's an agreement about what you're taking from the client, that you document everything that you're taking. I think you do this, Jen, right? Too. You photograph everything.
So that is what we do. So I guess I was looking at more of the back end, kind of how do we back everything up? But yeah, we have an intensive onboarding process. And we take photographs and notations of everything, and then that goes in a client server. In fact, we've calculated it takes us about 2 hours to onboard a client, depending on the amount of stuff, sometimes more. And actually, that's a great question because because of our onboarding system, it has covered our butts a couple times. We had a client looking for wedding albums and was convinced that we'd taken them off. She had an entire room of photography boxes and stuff that we removed. And because we had extensively documented everything, we could say with certitude, oh, I'm sorry, but we don't have your albums. So she kept asking and kept asking. We were very sure that we did not have those albums. She later found the albums. So part of this course will talk about our onboarding fees and a little bit about our onboarding process, which is where we start taking care of the images. And then, the offboarding process is where we keep those on our NAS drive. Sorry, I misinterpreted that question.
And I just want to add too, for those of you that are listening for the first time, remember Jennifer is now 5 years in with some big clients, but you walk before you run. Your first client may, have a box or two of photos and some, you're going to build your processes like you did, right, Jennifer? The course will shorten that learning curve a lot because, but the idea too is don't panic. I mean, it's, you start before you run. It's a process of learning. And,
I mean,
but
and
you're
it's
probably not
also
going to mess it up. You can't really mess it up unless you.
right. And it's also assumed that as photographers, you guys have a backup system in place for your own client work. So there's some knowledge that's assumed in this course. So, if you don't have a backup in place, then I would recommend going to the photo managers and looking that up. But it was assumed that as professional photographers, to protect your client work, your personal body of work, you have a backup system in place. So you kind of are familiar with protecting those.
We had a couple of questions regarding cost. Where should people look, or what kind of bracket as far as the services that are required to back up? Is there any? Is it a la carte, or is there kind of a place where a starting point as far as cost is concerned?
Cost for the
Can you like a range of pricing averages or pricing per
pricing
project,
averages.
right? Mm-hmm.
So if you have somebody who needs, they have a ton of images they need backed up, is there kind of like a median point that they need to get into to start with photo managing, or is there something that you recommend for people who want to start organizing but might not have an unlimited budget to start plugging away at hiring a photo manager?
I mean, it depends if it's analog or digital, right? If it's a professional photo manager, I really do believe that you have to figure out your cost of doing business and hence figure out your profit margin and your hourly rate, because that is so dependent on your cost of living in the area where you live. But if it's somebody who's doing it themselves, again, it's recommended if it's digital or analog, right? Digital, I think Mylio is a great option. It's got a super steep learning curve, but they have a great support manual online that you can help if you're a DIYer. Analog, again, if you have a camera at home, I think camera standing, and I think Kathy, you agree, right? That's the easiest kind of access point. You just need to make sure you get the right stand. It's back to the old darkroom days, right? Remember when your enlarger was like wonky at the bottom and then you'd have some weird softness on the edges kind of thing. So that would be
and people always want to know what do you charge. I think Jennifer covers all that in the course, but it does vary. It's what I always tell people: research what a service provider in your market charges, and you're going to find the rate it's actually pretty much set by what is a professional massage, what does a professional photographer charge? What's their hourly fee? What's a residential organizer? What's a bookkeeper? A massage therapist? Anybody that's offering services to clients. And then it's going to range from the lowest I think I've ever seen is, maybe at this point, $75 or $80 an hour to a high of, I don't know, maybe $225, depending on like the really high end markets. So somewhere in the between, you're probably going to find that. And then some people charge from a scanning perspective, either per item that they scan or they do it by packages. So there's a lot of different ways that people figure out the pricing. And I know you go through that pretty extensively in the course.
Yeah, I mean, the course is really, that cost of doing business part is really designed to help them really get down to what their hourly is, for the hourly without any profit. And then they can tweak it and figure out what hourly they want to make and how many hours they want to work. So it's such an important number. That's why I talk about it a lot, because you can feel I'm worth X dollars an hour, but like until you understand what your rent is, all these expenses are, and divide it by the number of hours you're working, you don't have a clue as to what your hourly is, right?
Mm-hmm. Where do most people get tripped up, or what is something that is often underestimated that you guys see in photo managing? Either something people aren't doing or something, oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. So is there something that people don't even know that they should be doing or are doing that they should not be doing?
Kathy?
I can answer that too. Yeah, again, so because we work with all the professional project scope or creep is a big one because people, finding oh, I forgot, I didn't realize I have this box of photos after you've estimated the project, or you're working on the photo book and then this is the fifth change that how do you like say you get so many edits before you have to, and so I think there's always that learning curve where you don't make the second mistake twice. But our members talk to each other. We have an amazing community. We talk about a rising tide lifts all boats, and we're collaborative, not competitive. So we have members that support each other and answer these questions and help each other all the time. Or what's like the red flag client when they ask a certain question, you kind of learn like, maybe that's the client you want to run because they're undervaluing your service. Another question that somebody asked, Martha said, what income demographic are people that can afford to hire a photo manager? This is definitely the income, it's definitely usually it's a professional service that people are paying for. So it is usually a dual income family. Not always. I mean, some people, Jennifer was talking like the A to Z project, right? But sometimes people will just want, their son is getting married or their daughter's graduating from high school, and they just want, can you take my daughter's baby photos and scan them and put it to music and create a video montage? That can be, a $1,500 project that you can do, or $2,000. And those one-offs do exist depending on who your target market is. I know Jennifer, because she already was in the pro field and the clients that she was serving were high net worth individuals, but many of our members work with clients at all different income levels. And another area that's growing that I don't know if Jennifer knows that much about, we're getting ready to launch a legacy certification, but this whole concept of legacy projects where it's really creeping in the world, the vernacular, and the Washington Post just had a great article about we all have a legacy to share, stories to be told, and people want to share their legacies with the next generation, with their grandkids. That doesn't have to be like crazy expensive. There's a lot of technology out there that helps people get those stories, add those stories to the photos and things like that. And we have a woman that's in our organization who's actually started a foundation where people are actually donating money to this foundation, and people can apply and get, actually get some of those services paid for by, if they, they have needs. So we do want to do a lot of giving back, because it shouldn't just be for like people who can afford this. Everybody deserves to have their story told, but so, I mean, it might be a long answer to it, but go ahead.
I have just a quick addition to the scope that references the course, because in the course, we do talk about how you write up a scope of work. And also for those clients with scope creep, there is suggestions on how to handle that, whether it's a change order or you write a new contract, because we see that a lot. We see that all the time. Like I
love the story you told, actually. You like set up, you do like a Zoom meeting with them, right? And you have everything on the table that you've done for them, right? And then you show them the completed part, and then when they're all excited, then you say, "Oh, but this is the rest we haven't done." I tell that story a little. I think it's just really funny.
It's a very visual process for them, right? Like we can say, "Look, we got all this done for you for X thousands of dollars, but we still have this for you guys to do." And then, of course, we drop stuff off, and they give us more stuff. It's like never ending. But
a situational question coming in from Gary, joining us on Zoom. I have a few 4 terabyte Samsung SSDs with photos. A friend told me his cloud storage just got corrupted. So after you have a few SSDs of photos and backup of the backups on another SSD, what would be the next upgrade? Is that a NAS or some other hot swappable device? Who can help me set up this unit? Or what would I need? What would I read to know where I should go in next steps?
I mean, I think a NAS is the next step, but I think then it's expensive, right? It's the 3-2-1. I have 2 NAS drives, 2 locations, and then I have Synology being the backup. Some people like Backblaze, but that's that's 16 terabytes of data. I don't know I guess you could go for a smaller NAS. I've got one here that's a TerraMaster, but I'm not, I would hire a technical person. I am not, I have a tech guy. He comes in, I text him and say, help. And so I would recommend getting help for that. I think it's worth your money to make sure it's done right. Because if it's not, then you've lost everything, right?
Okay. And speaking of getting help, Keith says, very interesting talk. Thank you. For someone who might be thinking about offering this service, it sounds to me like you better think about immediately hiring staff, as it doesn't sound like a one-person type of show. Yes, is that true?
No. You can do it by yourself. You just have to know what you want to do. And you have to be good with your calendar, right? You have to say, okay, we're going to do client 1 on Tuesdays and client 2 on Wednesdays. And then if you don't want to do scanning, don't offer it, right? That's a lot.
This is what Keith, we say, do what you love and outsource the rest. So another great thing about the photo manager community or within your own community is it's like you're a project manager, right? So you're building a house, right? You're not, you trust that the project manager knows who's the good plumber, or who's going to put your flooring in, who's going to do your cabinets, same kind of idea, really. I think, Jennifer, you outsource your video conversions, right? Home movie conversions. But that piece of it is true. There's lots of people who want to just stay in one lane of this, and you can outsource that work and still be the project manager.
It's a great point. I didn't even think about that
Oh, yeah.
outsourcing. And I think we kind of get locked into this mentality of like, no, we have to have total control, or if we want to reap all the benefits, we have to do all the work. And I
We
think
have lots of members who, like, I think of one in particular, like in Chicago, Bonnie Hillman Shea. She's been doing this a long time. She knows she only wants to work with large analog projects, period. She outsourced her digital, anything that's digital, to Holly, who happens to live in Minnesota. I mean, it's just so common for our members, or somebody else, some of our members say, oh, I don't want to ever scan a photo, but I love getting into the digital, piece of it. And it's like a puzzle and figuring all that out. And so definitely, people find their niches and stay within that.
Okay. And we have our question. I was wondering this too, Sonia. Sonia is asking, what's the most expensive job you've ever had?
I mean, I'm still working that job. It's at 150 now.
Wow. So it's just kind of like an ongoing.
It's ongoing, and she wants us to do the annual photo management. So we get her photos every year. I mean, it's crazy though, it's not a usual job. It's the outlier. I would say if you exclude that job, it's be in the 50s, 60s, 60,000, 70,000.
Mm-hmm. Well, like we were just talking about with you guys outsourcing for photographers, this is something you kind of can build into your process. I know there's certain things that I'll work into the budgets of jobs I do that if I know I don't like to do something, okay, I work the outsourcing into the budget. And if it doesn't fly, okay, figure out plan B at that time. But if the budget goes and it's accepted, boom, there. I don't have to cut into my budget to get something done that I don't want to do, and I don't have to waste my time doing it. So I think this is something that if you can go into it from the outset and people say, hey, I'm going to work this into my budget. I don't want to manage photos, but I want to have my photos managed. There, you can kind of work it in.
And I think that's important, as a photographer, thinking about adding this, the very first question we talk about in the course is, what do you want to do? Because don't get stuck doing something you hate, because that would suck.
The other thing too is people, an important thing about, like Jennifer keeps saying, these are ongoing projects. That's true. And, I know my son just got a big job from Puerto Rico. They sent him like 6 boxes. I teased him. That's what he got for, getting his search engine so good, because he was shocked when those boxes came in. And when he did the estimate, the client was surprised at what the estimate was. They just sent him the boxes, and then he was able to talk to them about, well, let's just piecemeal it over a month-by-month basis. I'll do this much of the project every month, and they were thrilled. So, the photos are safe because they were a threat because of a family member was, I think they were cleaning out a mother's house who had passed away. The photos were so humid, right? They were at high risk of deteriorating because of the humidity. They're now safely here. And, I don't know if he's got it down to like $1,000 or $1,500 a month, whatever piece of the project. And over the course of 6 months, he'll just chip away at it. And they were thrilled. So that's another way. I don't know if you do that, Jennifer, but for some of these folks are thinking like, you have to
talk about that in the course.
Most people are happy with that, because they hadn't got it done yet anyway. So unless it's for a special occasion where people have to have like the photos done because they need something, people can be patient over the process.
Yeah.
Joe joining us on Vimeo asks, with scanning, is there a system that auto saves? Joe, I agree with you on this. Get tired of going through the save process. Just the little nuances of clicking here and there to verify, save, do this. Is there any more streamlined process that you guys have that you recommend?
That would be a question for my assistant who handles all the scanning, because I don't like scanning.
Figure out what you like and what you don't like, right?
I know I like digital, but I do not like scanning. I check the work, I make sure the file names are correct, but I don't like it. So I don't know the answer to that, actually.
We'll work on it. We're gonna have Kathy's gonna be back. Kathy,
we'll
as long as we haven't made her mad, you're coming back, right, Kathy?
I'm always coming back. Yeah, we have so many different topics we could talk about. And another really fun thing for the photo managers is that we get to interface with so many great companies that are creating technology. I'm sure the technology, Joe's got something. They come to us. Usually they find the photo managers because they know that we have a very smart, group of people who are helping consumers. And I've introduced last week I did, right? It was Projector, Permanent, and there was one other, Ollie, the photo app. I introduce different companies, and I'll do that here as well, who are creating really great solutions. But the problem a lot of times is the consumer's not looking for them. But we have, and so like Jennifer, we have a great relationship with Milo. They're a major sponsor of the photo managers that come to our conference. They're actually building out, they have a certification program. If you remember the photo managers, you can get certified in Milo. And now they're sending their clients, they're actually creating like a concierge service. So you can buy a year-long subscription to Milo and 3 hours of photo organizing services. They're collecting money and paying the photo manager for the onboarding because they can't afford to keep the tech support. They don't have we're kind of becoming their tech support, paid tech support. We're seeing that more and more. These companies are looking for, educated consumers who can work with the clients that need that help and who are willing to pay extra because they understand that the technology is great, but they just can't figure out how to use it. And so it's a whole nother growing
Yeah,
niche
we actually
market.
have a lot of people calling us and booking out our 3 hours of Mylio tech support too. Just consumers.
I'm going to sneak one last question in here for you ladies. How much time do you spend staying up on the changing technology? It's like one of those things, we get set in our ways. We use the programs that work. Technology is changing so fast now. You used to be able to not really have to stay brushed up every 2-3 years. Now it seems like new programs are popping up that are constantly addressing issues. AI has just made the process way quicker as far as taking, hey, this isn't this is a long process. Let's make it shorter. We can make it shorter now with AI. How much time do you guys dedicate to staying up on the technology and moving with the technology with your own systems for organizing?
You want me to start, Kath, or?
Yeah, you go ahead. I have my
Yeah.
own opinion answer.
So we evaluate our systems regularly and always are looking for efficiencies. I would say when I feel like something is not working is when I start to search for software solutions, right? Like when I feel like this is so inefficient right now, where is the software solution for this? And I've always done that with my businesses. So, like I found Mylio, but I don't dedicate like 4 hours a month or something to kind of peruse the latest stuff. It's also can be client driven too. If a client is interested in like the projector app, or if we think we have a client now that we think would love these movies, and that we'll make a bunch of movies for him as a sort of a parting gift once we finish. He's a big account. So that would be what drives it too. But I would say when I get frustrated with inefficiencies, like I'm really bugged by my CRM right now. And I've just hired somebody to come in and be like, help me, this is not efficient. We need to fix this. That's when I kind of start getting irritated. I seek solutions.
And then my answer for us at the photo managers, as we kind of sit at the top of the, our job is we're constantly analyzing the technology and then sharing that information with our members. But among our member community, we have an advisory board, and we just one guy on there, Paul Aronson, who's like he worked for the Apple Genius Bar. He was a professional photographer. He's been a longtime member. He does an annual breakout at conference, and he was talking about he's working on his breakout right now, and he always does what's new with Apple the Apple ecosystem. He pretty much, that's the other thing. People, I don't know about you, Gemma, some people just stay in the Apple ecosystem, or they, why don't move if your client's like totally into the Apple ecosystem, you're not going to necessarily move them out. They just don't know how to use the Apple ecosystem, what's in there. But he was just saying how he feels like last year AI was just it's like we're at the tipping point already of like major change. So we have people that are kind of paying attention to that and then share their information really willingly. But at some point as a consumer, you also have to like screen out how much can you take. That's the problem, right? It's like we can become immobilized because everything keeps like,
Yeah.
well, I can't do anything. So
yeah, two great perspectives on that. I'm going to give my my little closing thank you to you both here, and a huge thank you to the photo managers and Kathy for all of you done and all you will continue to do, because we have a bunch more coming up. And Jennifer, some great information here. You made me think as I'm listening to you. I'm like, man, it's like all the time I spend doing nothing, and I'm sitting here, and it's like for the first time I actually thought like, yeah, the whole passive income thing. It's like, why am I not, it's because I'm not organized.
Derek,
That's the answer.
I needed Jennifer to get on to get you to open up.
I know. It's like How many times can I possibly sit here and listen and I get all these great perspectives, all these great approaches, every little dynamic. And it's like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, yeah. And I think it just takes, the right thing to crack through this thick skull of mine. But a lot of great information here. And it really, there's a business opportunity out there for everybody who's willing to just jump up and seize it. And I think that's what I got from this is that really you just got to do it. And you have to be organized first, obviously. You have to get your ducks in a row, but yeah, just some great information here. So I want to thank both of you ladies and remind everybody, if you want to check when Kathy's coming on next, head over to the B&H Event Space website. We'll get you covered there. And all of our stuff is broadcast live and archived on YouTube. I know we had some people asking if these are recorded. Yes, just head over to YouTube and just type in B&H Event Space and you can find our channel there. Feel free to peruse. It's all free education that we put out there for the masses. So that's my spiel. I'm done. I'll turn it over to you ladies to close it out.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Definitely check out the links that were there for the course. Like we mentioned, it's $50 off till February 1st with Jennifer. And then we'd love to welcome you as members to the photo managers as well. You can always reach out to me if you have questions. Jennifer?
Just happy to be here. So excited to be a part of a B&H event as a longtime B&H fan. And I can't say enough about the photo managers and how awesome their support has been and continues to be. And I really believe, I hope this course was made with photographers in mind. I really hope it helps people elevate their income.
There we go. Some more income in 2024 and me finally organizing my photos. One day it'll happen. Ladies, huge thank you. Kathy, we'll be seeing you again soon. And Jennifer, we hope to see you back on the platform in the future. So huge thank you to the ladies and to all of our viewers out there tuning in. That is it. Another round of the B&H virtual event space is in the books. Catch y'all next time.